When money becomes free, people stop thinking. That's exactly what happened. Imagine walking into a candy store where everything is free. No prices. No limits. Take as much as you want. At first, it feels amazing. You grab chocolates. Then more. Then bags full. Why not? It's free. But soon everyone is doing the same. Shelves empty out. Chaos begins. And suddenly, the store collapses. That is exactly what happened to the global economy. Except instead of candy, it was money. And instead of kids, it was governments, banks, and billionaires. This is the story of how free money almost destroyed the world. And it all starts with a panic. Back in 2008, the entire financial system was on the edge of collapse. Banks were failing. Markets were crashing. People were losing homes, jobs, everything. It was like a massive domino chain. And every piece was falling. At the center of it all were the most powerful institutions on earth. Central banks. These are the entities that control money. They decide how much exists and how expensive it is to borrow. And during the crisis, they faced a terrifying question. How do you stop the entire system from dying? Their answer was simple. Print money. Lots of it. But not like physical cash. Digital money. With a few keystrokes, trillions of dollars were created out of thin air. This process had a fancy name. Quantitative easing. But in simple terms, it was like giving the entire economy an unlimited credit card. Banks suddenly had access to massive amounts of money. Interest rates dropped to almost zero. Borrowing became insanely cheap. And that's where things started to change. At first, it worked. The panic slowed down. Markets stabilized. Companies survived. It looked like the cure had worked. But something strange was happening underneath. Because when money becomes cheap, people stop caring how they use it. Imagine if loans cost almost nothing. Would you think twice before borrowing? Probably not. And that's exactly what happened. Companies started borrowing like crazy. Not to build new products. Not to innovate. But to do something much simpler. Buy back their own shares. This pushed stock prices higher without actually creating real value. It was like inflating a balloon. Bigger and bigger. But filled with nothing. At the same time, investors were chasing returns. Because when interest rates are near zero, saving money gives you almost nothing. So people started taking more risk. They poured money into stocks. Into real estate. Into startups. Into anything that promised returns. Even if it didn't make sense. And this created a dangerous illusion. Everything looked like it was growing. Stock markets hit record highs. Tech companies exploded in value. Housing prices skyrocketed. It felt like a golden age. But it wasn't. It was a bubble. A massive one. Because the growth wasn't coming from real productivity. It was coming from cheap money. And here's the scary part. The longer it continued, the more dependent the system became on it. It was like a patient on life support. Remove the support and everything could collapse. Then came the twist. Years passed. And central banks kept printing. More money. More stimulus. More support. Every time the market showed weakness, they stepped in. And slowly, something dangerous happened. People stopped fearing risk. Why? Because they believed one thing. The system will always be saved. This belief had a nickname. The central bank safety net. If things go bad, money will be printed. So why worry? And that mindset changed everything. Investors became bolder. Companies became reckless. Debt levels exploded. It was like everyone was driving faster and faster. Because they believed the road would never end. But every road ends. And this one did too. In 2020, the world was hit by something unexpected. A global shutdown. Businesses closed. Economies froze. Fear returned. And once again, the system was in danger. So what did central banks do? They did the only thing they knew. They printed even more money. But this time, it was on a completely different scale. Trillions became tens of trillions. Money flooded into the system faster than ever before. Stimulus checks, corporate bailouts, emergency lending. It was like turning on a fire hose inside a small room. At first, it saved everything. Markets didn't crash for long. In fact, they exploded upward. Stock prices soared. Crypto went crazy. Assets of all kinds surged. It felt like magic. But remember the candy store. Too much of anything has consequences. And those consequences were coming. Because when you flood a system with money, you reduce its value. More money. Same amount of goods. What happens? Prices go up. That's inflation. And once inflation starts, it's very hard to stop. Suddenly, everything became more expensive. Food, fuel, housing, daily life. People felt it everywhere. And now, central banks faced a new problem. The very solution they used to save the system was now hurting it. So they had to reverse course. Fast. Interest rates were raised. Money became expensive again. The free candy store closed. And reality hit. Companies that depended on cheap money started struggling. Investments that only made sense in a low-rate world began to collapse. Tech stocks fell. Startups died. Crypto crashed. And the illusion disappeared. What looked like endless growth was actually borrowed time. Because here's the truth. Free money doesn't create real wealth. It just shifts problems into the future. And when the future arrives, the cost is always higher. So did free money destroy the world? Not completely, but it changed it. Forever. It made the rich richer. It pushed risk to dangerous levels. And it showed something important. The system can be saved, but not without consequences. And next time, comment for the next part.